Hello and welcome to Pro Baseball World Tour here on the RTC Multimedia YouTube channel. Rick Crabb here in the studio, and on the line, he's actually doing some investigating as far as the spring training games. He's attending a couple of them, including one today and some more later on in the week. Mr. Eric Marenbach. Eric, how's the Grapefruit League treating you this week so far?
Oh, Rudy Tooty, fresh and fruity, as we say. Baseball's back.
Awesome.
Oh, I care. Okay. We started Sunday in Fort Myers for the Spins against the Red Sox. Then yesterday was a little close journey with a Marlins game. And then right back on the road again for today's game between the Braves and the Twins. So there's a lot more teams to see on this side of the Grapefruit League than the other side. The drawback is, in order to see any of the 10 teams instead of the South Florida 5, you have to travel anywhere for 2.5 to 4 hours. And if it's anything more than 3 for me, I want to try and pick a stretch of games where that quadrant is relatively close and then stay over for a couple of days before heading back east to Seniorville.
Oh, well.
Try to work it out that way.
Yeah. So, Eric, you've been to spring training for several seasons. This is obviously the first one in the COVID era. What have you noticed that are similar to your past experiences, and what are different, especially with the COVID protocols going on? I mean, what's this? For example, we were talking last week about the seating, how some teams are selling like blocks of 4 and that sort of thing. What's been your experience with these games you've attended so far?
Okay, they're being very coy about ticket sales because what I'm finding out is when they started selling tickets online, they were trying to maximize value. So a lot of teams were only selling in quote-unquote positive 4. You could get to in select cities if you knew what you were doing online and or schmooze with whoever.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, these teams were trying to do 4s online, jamming up their servers so that people weren't getting through.
Right.
And or, I'm sure you've heard Daniel Kim during his KBO broadcast about how in the KBO during the playoffs, the brokers and the scalpers would be jamming up their Wi-Fi servers in these internet cafes and scooping up a whole bunch of tickets and then selling them for God knows how much.
Right.
So they do the same thing here.
Hmm.
But what is happening, though, is even though they're trying to sell 4s online, when they originally put tickets on sale, day of game you can still get 2s.
So, and this would be by still ordering online, or would this be walking up, or do they even have any walk-up booths to these places?
No, walk up.
Okay. Now, one recent phenomenon I've noticed with a lot of different teams and a lot of different sports, though, and I don't know what your experience is with this, especially with the Washington teams. I noticed this with the Nationals, as far as baseball's, relevancy goes. Have you been able to actually purchase, let's say, print out tickets or actual ticket stubs, or have you literally had to order, like, the electronic tickets and scan your phone, that kind of thing?
Thing this year, and perfectly justifiable for safety reasons, is all e-tickets. Whether it's through the Ticketmaster site or, bottom line, even if you order through Ticketmaster, if they go through that protocol or whatever, it's all going to be on your ballpark app.
Okay.
Electronic ticket-wise.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I know. It seems like that's the way they're going. I'm not a fan of that personally. It's like when I went to the World Series viewing party, I had to do that, and I had to do it with a cracked phone while it was raining outside. So that was kind of a pain in the ass. I had to wipe the damn phone to, so they could scan it properly. It was a pain. But I guess that's the way things are going now. So, I don't know. Get off my lawn.
Oh, not only that, I mean, it's become necessary this year because of safety protocols. You try to get things in as few hands as possible.
Right. Yeah, but if you're coming by yourself with, you're buying 2 tickets because, that's the cheapest you can get, I don't know, it's, whatever. But I guess that's the way but that's another thing too. I mean, it's like, I don't know. I can see why they're doing it, like you say, with COVID, and then prior to that, I mean, I think the original reason they were doing it was to prevent theft, because, people were printing, like, counterfeit tickets, that kind of thing, but, I don't know. Yeah. But, I mean, I miss the old days. I mean, you get tickets with, like, with the team's artwork, or, like, I don't know, sometimes, like, my dad used to get football tickets. He would get, like, each ticket would have the opponent's logos on them. I thought that was kind of neat. But, I mean, it's just, like, one less collectible, I guess you get now, but, I mean... But they don't care about us old folks who want paper. They just, they just want to go with the times.
Especially that paper is biodegradable and will set your house on fire.
Yeah, well, so can a phone if it's defective, but I don't know. I think Samsung actually had problems with that, I think, a few years ago with their battery or something, but, I don't know.
Yeah, it was something with the Galaxy where something was blowing up.
Yeah. Yeah, they're probably the same people who managed the Samsung Lions team. They didn't do very well, so I guess, I don't know. I guess they both had to work on all that, but... Okay, so, I mean... Alright, so as far as COVID protocols, Eric, have they varied as far as, like, how they sat you, that kind of thing? Or is it pretty much uniform? They're following, like, a template from Major League Baseball? Or how's that working?
I think they're trying to follow some sort of a template where they're trying to see in every other row and or when they're doing positive 2 and or 4, you're trying to get the aisle seat and 1 seat extra or 3 seats extra and then blocking them off. What the stadiums that I've seen, what they've been doing as far as, like blocking off certain seating, they've been using police ties to kind of like block off each seat, so that they can't go down.
Right.
So you block off a whole bunch of seats that you can't sit in order to social distance, which is a cool idea.
Right. And I would imagine be a preview of what we'll see in the major leagues later this summer, I guess. But
oh, absolutely. Depending on the stadium, depending on the state, depending on protocols, so on and so forth.
Right. All right. And as far as the games you've seen so far, I mean, have you seen any players that have stood out to you that looked like either regular major leaguers that look like they're having a good spring, or any new prospects from these teams that, look like they're going to be good so far? Or
you can't judge anything based on 2 games.
Right.
You really, once the fact, for the first week or so, and this has something to do with protocols as well, they have the right to shorten games to anywhere between 5 and 7 innings.
Okay, I was going to ask you about that, because I was listening to a spring game between the Orioles and the Yankees earlier today, and they were talking about that. They were saying that the managers can converse, they can either go shorter or they can even go longer if, I don't know, they have like, if one team says, okay, listen, can I bring out another pitcher, get some work for him for another inning? So, I mean, they can change it up, and it's like the announcers didn't know. It's like, well, we're at the bottom of the seventh, and I'm guessing this will be the final inning. I'm not sure. We'll know when we come back after commercial break or something like that. I mean, they didn't know. And I guess really the players don't know. I guess it's how they feel, as far as what they feel like doing or whatever. But
what seems to be happening, I mean, at least in the first two games that I went to, even when the home team is winning, they will still play the bottom half of the seventh and then complete it.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. Okay, so
it's a little weird. It's something to get used to. But,
yeah. I mean, I guess it's like Iverson said, it's practice. It's just practice. So, it's practice, although they're not charging practice prices from, I would imagine, but, that's what you're paying to go down there for. You're paying to get away from the snow and the ice and the peat, and the grocery store is crowded with people getting bread, milk, and toilet paper, so you can spend a week or a weekend or whatever in Florida and watch some baseball, see what your team looks like before they come up. But
Right. And, okay, a lot of the experience of spring training is out the window because of the player interaction, autograph plays, and so on and so forth. Nobody seems to be spotted. I believe it's been mandated by MLB that players can't basically go up to it.
right.
And safety protocol. I've been bringing in stuff just for shits and giggles, just to see if there's anything going on. Of course, based on the starting lineup, which get posted, early morning, even before you enter the gate anyway. So I have, a whole bunch of stuff in my car for the two teams that I'm seeing, and then all of a sudden the lineup will get posted, and I'm like, okay, you can't bring this in, you can't bring this in because they're not playing. And another thing that's a drawback is a lot of these teams are not allowing you to even bring a bag in. So whatever you can sneak into your pocket, as long as it's not metal, you're fine.
Right. Yeah.
So you can sneak in like a card or two, or in my case, a bobblehead if I have deep enough pockets. Or even in my case, which is what I should have been doing from the get-go, but I don't, and I haven't done it yet, only because this week is basically used as a tester anyway.
Right.
I've been sticking them into my deep pockets of basketball shorts, of the one or two players that are there. And if they're there, they're there. And if they're willing, which so far they haven't been, fine. If not, there's still a game.
Right.
I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I was a player, if I had some dude coming up to me taking a bobblehead out of their pants, I'd be like, I don't know, COVID, brother, I don't know. Maybe not, but maybe not. Who knows? But all right. So as far as now, okay. So as far as a general experience, I mean, COVID-wise or not, and maybe that's changed too because of all this. What's parking like for those things? I mean, do they have lots around there, or are they? I don't know. Do they have some of these cities are not like small little beach towns. Some of them are actually fairly big cities. I mean, as far as commuting to the game, that kind of thing. How's that over there? Or
they're still charging for parking, at the stadium. Mm-hmm. It's not like, Baltimore or whatever, where they'll charge $30, $40. You're charging maybe 10 at the max.
Right.
What I'm finding, though, is that some of the stadiums aren't taking plastic, which is a little weird. Today, and I'll actually have to prepare for this tomorrow because I'm going back there. They weren't taking plastic; they were taking actual cash from people, which I thought was kind of surprising.
Yeah, especially since you're buying e-tickets, I would think it would be an easier transfer for them. I don't know, that's weird.
I guess they didn't get the machinery to process parking fees. But so I basically looked at the guy, and he looks at me. He goes, "All right, no, maybe the next time you come, you'll give a little donation."
Okay.
You know, kind of hint.
Oh, nice.
But I don't take kindly to hints.
No.
So I just kept it off and parked my car.
Right.
I think tomorrow I'll prepare a little more and find an ATM and just take the money out just for the hell of it.
Right. Okay. Well, I mean, I guess, now you're talking about, in this case, this would be for the parking, not necessarily for the ballpark. I mean, you weren't asking for just cash at the walk-up windows, right?
Oh, yeah. Inside, like for food concessions and stuff, everything is, plastic, or you can get cash.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah.
And it was funny. Today, they had every food item, at least in the concession stand that I was at, in bags. So I had a grilled chicken sandwich, and then French fries. So they had the chicken sandwich wrapped in foil, the fries actually, like in a small Burger King type cup.
Right.
But each individual item was packaged and then put in a bag.
Well, makes sense. And again, that's probably how the major league teams will do it during the regular season too, and probably all sports will be doing that. That haven't opened up or have already opened up. But yeah, because I was listening to the radio when I was running errands, and then when I went online, I was looking at a couple of schedules for some teams and such, and I found out that I don't know. I'm not sure what the Orioles are doing yet. They still might not open the stadium yet, but I heard the Phillies were talking about having allowing 1,800 fans there. So I'm curious. I might go to their website, and I can get into any Oriole games. I might go up there and grab a cheesesteak on the way or on the way back or something. But
under different protocols. I mean, the Yankees, New York, right, as of now, is 10% capacity in state venues. Mm-hmm. Which would mean, I think we discussed this on another episode, it's like 4,800 to 5,000 for Yankee Stadium and about 4,200 for Citi Field.
Right, that makes sense, because, Sunday I was watching a hockey game. It was the Rangers and the Bruins at Madison Square Garden. I think they allowed 1,800 fans, so I guess it's 10% of what MSG holds, I guess, but...
right.
Yeah.
See, and now what's making it annoying, and these idiots have no answers whatsoever. Apparently, the Yankees have had tickets on sale. And you couple that with the season ticket holders already, there's something rotten in Denmark.
Right.
So, unfortunately, these ticket reps, well, mine in particular, is a total dumbass.
Mm-hmm.
I said, can you actually justify how you can actually sell tickets to the public along with having this many full season ticket holders, considering the protocols of New York City?
Right.
Her answer to me was, well, when they put the tickets on sale back in November, there were no protocols. Doesn't that seem kind of stupid to you?
Yeah, and probably inaccurate because, I mean, there were protocols. I mean, granted, yeah, baseball season doesn't run in November, but still, I mean, you didn't have any, you couldn't go to anything in Madison Square Garden or to the Barclays Center or any indoor arena, or you know, I mean, they still have, I mean, they have similar protocols to smaller capacities, and they're indoors, but yeah, they had protocols. I mean, that's ridiculous.
No, but there weren't percentages of how many people you could let in at the time. These percentages have only been actually broadcast, shall I say? Maybe I'm using the wrong term.
Right.
But within the... So, what's basically happening is somebody like the Yankees or Mets, I don't know if it's going on with the Mets, but
yeah.
So, these teams are looking to sell tickets willy-nilly, and then you have your season ticket holders that more than likely renew because they'll, you know, from their credits that they got from the absence of 2020. So stuff is running in Denmark.
Right. And I'm wondering how recent that is too, Eric, because I remember seeing announcements on Facebook that somehow, I don't know, I came across like one of the live press conferences that Cuomo was doing. And he was doing it around football season. He was trying to allow some fans to go to see the Bills in the playoffs. And I think it was like, I don't know, he was allowing like 2,000 fans to that or something. But point was he was kind of like opening things up. And he was like trying to broaden it, saying, okay, different entertainment venues, you know, it'll be this capacity is 10%, this capacity 20%, that kind of thing. So, I mean, yeah, like in a way they are not broadcasting it, but in a way, I mean, the people that know, you know, and they're just not letting everybody know at once. It's a racket, like you said, man, and it's...
So, and, you know, she won't admit it, at least my dumbass won't, but that's what's basically going to wind up happening. These tickets are being put on sale, even though the season ticket holders already had their money in. And they're just going to wind up crediting people or attempting to give them credit, while people are probably going to wind up trying to get refunds.
Yeah, probably. I mean, and I'm wondering how many of the season ticket holders are personal season ticket holders and not like, I don't know, corporate season ticket holders who, like, I don't know, rent like the skyboxes and that, or even like, you know, there are some companies that rent like the regular seats too. But yeah, I'm wondering how much that plays into it also.
Well, that's another whole animal altogether. Because, okay, in Yankee Stadium in particular, there's a whole bunch of, not necessarily skyboxes in particular, but luxury lounges, like the Pinstripe Club or the Pepsi Lounge or the Champions thing. All of these are indoors, which they're not going to have. So people are going to have to actually sit in there in the outer concourse.
Right.
So that's a whole other horse of a different color and a whole other apple to crack. And at least my dumbass, again, had no answers whatsoever. But everybody else does, which,
right.
You know, it is what it is. But
yeah.
It pisses me off that I get stuck with the bottom of the barrel.
Right. Oh, yeah, you and a lot of other fans. And I think another thing, too, I mean, they're probably going to get a lot of these companies who, especially the ones who pay for those tiered packages that you mentioned, they're going to get a lot of refunds because usually, it's like I know I've worked in heating and air conditioning for like 30 years. And I used to get a lot of tickets to games from vendors that we dealt with, and that was just basically a perk that they would use for you to buy their crap for jobs. You know, they would give you tickets to their box for the Orioles or the Nationals or the Capitals or whatever. And, you know, there are going to be a lot of companies that won't be able to do that because there'll be some that'll be like, well, because there are some people that might not feel safe going. It's like, I don't know if I still want to go to all that. Or they'll have someone that's like, well, our box isn't available this year, but, you know, we still have these seats out in left field. You can come to the game, still come to the game and all. And some people are cool with that, and some people go more for the experience of, you know, the socializing and all that, everything but the ball game. So, I think we're going to see a lot. There's going to be a lot of questions being asked once things start opening up more and more again. So, because even if the disease part is, I mean, we're recovering from that. Financially, it's going to be a mess. I wouldn't want to work for any of those teams right now to go through all this, to tell you the truth.
Well, you know what? As long as teams know what they're doing and, you know, have a plan set for this, you can do it. But, I mean, a team as rich as the Yankees should have had all this planned in place to knock through their fan base, their ticket base, so on and so forth.
Yeah, well, yeah, but to their defense, and this would probably be true of any team, it's like a lot of these teams, they don't know what they're going to do because they don't know what they're allowed to do. They're still checking with, well, in the Yankees case with Cuomo or the city of New York or whatever, you know, the state and local governments. You know, as far as the first thing they're thinking is, okay, can we open up at all? And if we can, what parts of the stadium can we open up, and how many people can we let in? And COVID or not, I mean, well, especially now with COVID, but any situation where health is involved, I mean, it's a litigious society, Eric. I mean, I'm sure the Yankees don't want to get, like, sued for somebody getting tested for COVID, testing positive for COVID or whatever, you know? Because even though it's kind of like the disclaimers on the tickets for, you know, for foul balls and everything else for a sporting event, you know there are going to be some nutcases trying to bleed whatever team they're going to see out of money for something like that, so.
Well, I mean, I've already gone on record with again, I'll just keep on calling her like I call her, my dumbass. I will go on record by saying that if there's any walk-up that sits anywhere near me, I will bitch.
Right.
You know, I'm a full-season ticket holder. I'm entitled to, you know, my seat that I paid for, you know, with certain protocols and certain safety precautions. And you're just going to go and throw somebody willy-nilly, you know, close to me with all the restrictions. I mean, unless you have positive ID on either somebody that's been tested that day of the game or has a negative test or has the vaccine already, I don't want to be sitting there anyway.
Well, that's another thing. I don't know how they'll necessarily do this for sporting events, but I know there's some restaurants here in Maryland where actually when you go in, before they seat you, they actually get your name and a phone number for a contact in case somebody does test positive. They can go through the list and see, okay, who was in, and you know, basically for tracing reasons. I'm wondering if they could do that, but I would think that would be very difficult, you know, for a crowd that size. Now, I'm wondering also, if I was working security, if I ran security, in other words, I had like a bunch of ushers under me, I would do what this church that I went to not too long ago did. What they would do is it would be like anywhere else. You know, they'd ask, okay, how many are with you, and you know, it'd be me or me and my wife or whatever. What they had this girl do was she sat me down in the church, and it was, you know, it was early and it was still empty. What she would do is sit me down, and then she had like some tape, or she had actually, I think she had like little placards or signs. She would put like 2 or 3 signs, you know, on the chairs next to me. So the next person she would put in that row would be like 3 seats apart from me. You know, I'm wondering if maybe they can do that at the ballpark. I mean, just have like an usher take you and a friend, and then once they sit you down, they take like the next 3 seats after you, and you know, just put no, seats closed or whatever. You know, close them off like.
Like they're doing at the spring training ballpark.
Oh, they are doing that, or they're not?
No, well, it should be. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. That's how you get around that, and then, you know, eventually you might meet capacity by doing that, and you should have everybody spread out, and you know, I think that would be probably be a cheap way to do it. I mean, you know, how much does what ballparks spend on other things, Eric? I mean, how much does like a roll of duct tape cost? You know, you tape like a, you know, sign with the Oriole bird saying no one's allowed to sit here, you know, due to COVID regulations or whatever, you know. Wear the damn mask. Enjoy where it's baseball. You know, that's all they got to do.
That's not even the point, though. You still have to take care of your season ticket holders first. So, with these protocols in place, there should be no walk-up.
Okay.
There should be a certain amount of constant clientele and nobody additional. Or nobody. Season tickets should not be able to be transferable either. So it's the same people sitting in the same thing. You know, kind of like your own little family.
Right. Well, except you've gone to enough ball games, so not every baseball game, I don't care what team you are, will sell out. There have been plenty of times where, I don't know, like the Sirius XM box at Yankee Stadium wouldn't be occupied. You know what I mean? Like a lot of these companies, you're going to get backlash from them, because they're going to be like, well, no, dude, we buy these tickets for sales. That's a sales expense. We try to, you know, use them to entice clients. So I don't know.
No, but use it for a tax deduction, but you get what I mean, though. In this particular circumstance, in this particular era, where you're not sure of transmission,
right?
You can't have the same seat being occupied by multiple people.
Yeah.
You can't.
Well, let me ask you this, Eric. What if they have, like, say, like a, I don't know, like a different entrance time? Like, say, they let season ticket holders in for, like, say, I don't know, up to, like, an hour before the game starts. And then, like, if they have a max of, like, 1,800 and only, I don't know, say, 1,500 come in, you know, if they have, like, a walk-up for 300. I see what you're saying as far as if you're paying for season tickets, yeah, you should get first, second, and third preference. I get that, but I don't know, if they don't get all the season ticket holders they're allowed to bring in, they should be able to sell some seats somewhere. I mean, and they don't have to sit them in the same spot. I mean, the season ticket holders, you know, usually they'll have better seats anyway. So they can put season ticket holders, they can put them, like, in a box seats, and they can put the walk-ups in, like, you know, the cheap seats way up top, you know.
I don't think it can be done safely. I really don't.
Well, in a 20,000 and 40,000 seat stadium, I think they could do it. I mean, it's you might not get, well, I would even plug it as, say, like an upgrade. Like, say if you have a season ticket plan and you're up by the third base foul pole, you know, you can bring, it's like, okay, you're a season ticket holder. We're going to upgrade your tickets this year. Thank you for supporting us through these tough times. We'll put you down closer to the third base dugout. And that's how they could do it. They could put the season ticket holders, they can give them the better seats. Not only let them in first, but give them better seats. And then the walk-ups, you stick them up in the nosebleeds.
That's the loss. They'll never do that either because that's a loss of revenue.
How do you figure? If you got more people buying that, how do you figure that? I don't understand.
Because if they upgrade the season ticket holder who automatically had a cheap seat to begin with, and they put them down at a seat that they could have sold under a normal circumstance for 4 times the price, that's 4 times the price of revenue that they've lost. So they would never do it. I don't know. I can't see it.
Right.
And, you know, we've got this whole bunch to set up the series and shit and wait for them to make a move.
Right.
But the second something screws up, you know, these teams are going to be liable.
Right.
But rather put the bull before the horns now and establish everything first before you do the trial and error crap, and, you know, you're bound to screw up.
Yeah. I don't know. I think they've been in business for a long time. If it's one thing that they know how to do is make money. I mean, I'm sure they can figure it out. I mean, maybe you don't think it'll be more. I can see what you're saying as far as ticket prices they might be losing out on that. But if you have like the same people who come and if they like pregame before they come to the ballpark and they don't spend anything on beer or hot dogs or whatever. Some do, okay, but there are a lot that don't. You get a family of 4 that comes in for that day that it has, you know, their little boy and girl wanting to buy, you know, Yankee pennants and T-shirts and and cotton candy and all kinds of other crap. They'll make out one way or another. I think it's the thing about pro sports today, man. They can make their money, you know. But I could see the frustration, you know, for a season ticket holder. I could see that. You know, I could see a lot of your points on that. But I don't know. I think it's a new world, and it's, you know, and hopefully it's a temporary new world with this shit, and he'll probably have to change things up to accommodate that. But.
Oh yeah, this is definitely going to be a weird year, but as long as I can see as many games as possible, I mean, under my scenario, okay, where I have Yankee full season, but I don't have a full season for the Mets because, quite frankly, they don't have my price point available. Then say on me, then I'll hit less National League games, maybe hit more either independent or minor league games, depending on their protocols. Who knows?
Right. Yeah. I was looking at some of the scouts.
Also got the kids games that I can hit.
Yeah, there you go. And in some of our Facebook groups, I saw that, I think one of them, it's the All Baseball group, they've been having some links that may or may not be legal, but they've been televising some Major League spring training games. Let's keep that our little secret, folks, whoever's listening. But I did see some links to that. One thing I was looking at when I was looking at minor league games, as far as like the restructuring of some of the minor leagues, I saw that your Somerset Patriots, they're now they're now the Yankees AA. They're actually in the think they're called the AA East or something like that. I forget what they call that league. But anyway, they replaced the Trenton Thunder, and then they made the Trenton Thunder. They're now an MLB draft league with the Frederick Keys, which is
right.
Yeah. So I mean, I know you went to Somerset for like those split squad games. So I mean, you know, maybe you can go there to. It's a little. I would imagine it'd be a closer drive to you than Trenton would have been, but.
Yeah. And also, you know, Hudson Valley now is a Yankee franchise rather than it being a Tampa.
Mm-hmm.
And it's different levels. So, you know, the leagues are restructuring. Even the independent leagues are coming in with some of the fillers of teams that couldn't go affiliated because of the minor league restructuring.
Right. Yeah, it'll be interesting, especially in my area. I drove past, I went to Philadelphia to visit a friend this past weekend, and of course I drove past Citizens Bank. I drove past the Wilmington Blue Rock Stadium, Frawley Stadium, and then I drove past Ripken Stadium in Aberdeen. And now the Wilmington Blue Rocks and the Aberdeen Ironbirds are in the same league now, so that'll be interesting. Because that'll be a nice little, they're only maybe 30, 40 miles apart now, so that'll be good to see. Maybe, hit games for both of those teams now, but so.
Right. It's a good restructure in some respects, bad in others. Independent leagues where I would hit, they'll want more teams. It's just a different league now, like the Atlantic League. All the teams that I used to hit have now gone to different areas.
Right.
So you got Frontier League that'll probably be more appetizing Independent League wise than Atlantic League. So It is what it is.
Yeah, and when I was looking at the High A League that Aberdeen and Wilmington's in, Brooklyn is also in there. It was weird because there were a lot of former New York Penn League cities and teams. You had two from Carolinas. It was Wilmington and another team. Then you had two or three, I think, from maybe the South Atlantic League, which was is kind of like the slightly lower A ball, which for the Orioles it would have been the Delmarva Shorebirds, but it's cities from that league moving over. So it's kind of it's kind of it's like a blender of all these different leagues. I think they're trying to do it geographically because I know there are a lot of teams that were complaining about having a long time relationship, having a AAA team, out in the West Coast or something, and the Major League team would be out in the East, but now they can't do that because of this restructuring, so I don't know.
I'll take it.
Yeah. It's baseball, and get to see more teams closer, so I'm cool with that, so I don't know. I'm actually planning, I've had a few different friends planning some baseball trips. I had told you on a previous episode I want to go to a Pirates game at PNC Park. I have a friend who lives in North Carolina. I think she lives either near Durham or near where the Chattanooga Lookouts play. So, and she was hoping that the Frederick Keys were going to come down there, but I was like, well, no, they changed it up. We might get Aberdeen there, so I don't know. I'll have to look for sure, but I don't know. It's kind of weird. There's some divisions that are fairly close, but then you have for the AAA, you have a AAA South, and then you have you have Norfolk, and then you have Memphis, and then you have Durham, and then they're kind of spread pretty far. I don't know. It's kind of weird though. Usually those regional leagues, they'll all be all the Northeast or all the Southeast or all East Coast or West Coast or something. But now they got you have Norfolk going to Memphis, and then they'll go to Durham, and then they'll go to Syracuse. It's weird. It's just kind of up and down. They sound. Granted, it's AAA. They may have some flights there. I was going to say if that's a single A bus league, man, that would be brutal. But
well, that's why for years the team that got stuck with the affiliate of Vegas, in the old Pacific Coast League. That was the lonely stepchild because it was normally a team whose major league affiliate was East.
Right.
And that would be the bigger pain in the butt as far as, an emergency call-up.
Oh, no kidding, yeah. I remember back in the day, remember getting a program for an Oriole game as a kid in the 70s, and they actually had a little article, he said, down on the farm, and it had like all their farm league teams. I think their top team at the time was Rochester, which could be worse, okay? But then they actually had I don't know if it was like a single A or a rookie A or what, they had a team in Hawaii. They actually had a team called the Hawaii Orioles. I'm like, what the hell? It's like,
yeah, I remember that.
Hmm.
It was in the old Pioneer League where that was the case.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, that's. But I mean, the minor leagues have been built up significantly. I mean, mainly because a lot of cities benefit from them. I mean, they were able to make a profit with them. I mean, you get like these smaller or mid-sized cities, that they can get like a single or double A or even a triple A team. Some big cities have like triple A teams that just don't have major league. They probably have major leagues for everything else but that. But
right. At this point, they don't even care what level they are as long as they're getting something that will promote the town a little bit.
Right. And I mean, there's also like I think movies had to do a lot with it too, especially like in the 80s. So I mean, you had like Field of Dreams, and then you had like Bull Durham and all that, and it's like I don't know. I think I mentioned on another episode, it's like my friend that I go to the Bowie Bay Sox games. We used to go to Frederick Keys games, and because they were in the Carolina League, which the Durham Bulls were in at that time, that was our thing to do. We would either go from my house or his house, and then when we come back, we would watch Bull Durham. That was just our thing to do. We just popped that tape in, and got to the point I think both of us wore out our Bull Durham cassettes, but
That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
Just traveling wherever you feel like going, you pick the race and go.
Yeah, exactly. Alright. Okay. Yeah. So you said you have a... I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask you, so you said you had a few more games this week. Who you said you had tickets for? You said you had tickets to Yankees coming up, and who else do you have going on?
Yeah, I got 2 games tomorrow. It's the Braves against the Orioles during the day, and the Yankees and Blue Jays at night. Then on Thursday, I can do Twins and Rays during the day in Fort Myers, and then shoot over for, I think it's Astros Cardinals in Palm Beach.
Okay.
For a night game.
Nice, okay.
And then I'll be in my neck of the woods for the weekend.
Oh, okay. Your neck of the woods for Florida, or you mean back, yeah.
Yeah, and that's part of it, Like I said, the difference between coasts, where it's the South Florida 5 versus the rest of the world.
Right. Exactly, yes. Okay, so, alright, well, we'll definitely look forward to some reports going on there, from those games to tell us if there's anything unusual you meet. It seems like you're always meeting a lot of interesting former or current players, too, so, alright, so.
Yeah, you just gotta get used to people in masks.
Yeah, we've had a year to do it, so, I guess, it's still an adjustment, but I don't think it's part of the new normal, I guess, but.
Right, and even when you get to the point where there's this herd immunity or whatever the hell they want to call it, but most of the country has been vaccinated. I'll be damned if I'm gonna have the courage to, at certain points, go without it, because you really don't know, in a bigger scenario, who is one of those anti-vaxxers. Right.
I have a feeling they're going to open things up, but they're probably still going to have mask mandates. And I think, I don't see that going away for a while. I could be wrong. I'm not a doctor or anything like that. I haven't even been to a Holiday Inn Express in a while, but no, I could see a lot of states being cautious in doing that. It's kind of like, it's almost like the new no shoes, no service kind of thing. And quite frankly, I would be, like you, I would be nervous about a big crowd of people not doing that. So.
And it's going to happen. Don't get me wrong, because you have, even with the vaccine rolling out, you still have your people that will refuse a vaccine for one reason or another, claiming either religious reasons or political reasons or, the winds are going to the left instead of the right, and or, Jewish space lasers tell me not to do something. Everybody's got their stupid excuse not to do something.
Right.
So you can't necessarily go back to normal life. I hate to say it, but
yeah.
And I will say something that we've said on a number of different shows, where you used to watch stuff in Asia, and every 20th seat or so, you see somebody on camera with a mask. And at the time, you kind of looked at them like they were sick.
Right.
But you know what? Those are the smarter people. They choose to wear them to not only protect themselves, but others around them. Mm-hmm. At least that's what I'm finding, anyway.
Smarter and more considerate, I would say, as well. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're right. You see that already too, Eric. I mean, it's like some people, like you said, you have your anti-maskers, you have your religious people. I here in Baltimore, I've heard two arguments. Okay, the governor basically said that Baltimore City received he said they received enough doses of the vaccine, and city leaders are complaining about it, saying he's racist and all that. And he's like, no, we, compared to what we assigned to, he assigned more than to other parts of Maryland, for one thing. And the other thing is you have a large portion of the African American community citing an old conspiracy based on where a lot of people were given a false polio vaccine and wound up dying. They think this could be like some BS, government propaganda or whatever. You gotta just protect yourself. I mean, COVID or not, they're just crazy, stupid people. You gotta watch out for, man.
And you could say I'm hypocritical because I've never got the flu shot. Maybe this will convince me to get a flu shot from now on.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, for a while, I was anti-flu shot for this reason. One time I did get the flu shot, I never got the flu that bad until after I had the flu shot, and I blamed that for the longest time. And if you think about it, what is the flu shot? You're injecting another strain of flu. It's kind of like you cure it the same way you cure a snake bite. You have a poisonous snake bite you, what do they cure you with? Another strain of snake venom to counteract it. And at first I thought, after talking to some doctors and nurses that I know, they actually told me it's the same thing with COVID. It's a strain of COVID that you're fighting it all with. So, but you know what? Like I said, I'll be a goddamn COVID pincushion. I'll wear my Buffalo Blue Jays jersey, I'll roll up my sleeve, be like, okay, nurse, do what you gotta do. Yeah, that's how you do it.
Right. Unfortunately, that's the sign of the time.
Yeah. All right, Eric. Well, look, I think we'll wrap things up for this week. I'm sure you have some more spring training baseball throughout, and then next week we'll definitely talk about that. We have any news items, we'll talk about that for sure. One more thing, a programming note, folks. We do have another show similar to this for pro wrestling called the Grumpy Old Man Wrestling Podcast. Now, Eric, I spoke to my host about this, and I think you and I spoke about this off the air, talking about maybe you joining us for an episode of that. Would you be down for it? I think you would ask me about this earlier in the week or something.
you see like your sitcoms crossing over, and one show joining another show's cast. So I will painfully admit that I used to watch wrestling back in the day. Probably a different era than what you guys are used to watching. Who knows? Maybe a lot of the same people, but
yeah, I mean,
something that I just shock you with, that you'll be like, holy crap, I remember that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's how Chris and I became fans. That's why we kind of watch it now. And a lot of what we do on the show, we complain that it's not like how wrestling used to be, like in the 80s or whatever. So, but yeah, we'll get to that, and I'll get with my host this week, and maybe the next time we record, we'll have Eric Marin back as our guest ring announcer, I guess. So we'll put you on the panel as well. So, all right.
Ooh, I could be
You can be what?
I could be my own Howie Finkel.
Oh, there you go. This match is scheduled for one fall. Yeah, there you go. All right, cool. Yeah. He'll be like CJ Strongbow bringing people into the ring and shit. Okay, cool. All right, there we go. There we go.
Sounds good to me.
Marienbach Square Garden. There you go. All right, cool. All right, folks. Thanks again for listening. We will talk to you next week.